Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I have not posted for a while about Agronomics. Agronomics is a growth stock that I'm owning, and they are going to change the world as we know it via their investments. Of course, not just via their investments. There's 200 companies on the world that are working on these things, but they do have a pretty nice portfolio, maybe representing 5 or 10% of the global market. In August was my last video, and at the time I said that there would be a valuation cut for companies compared to 2021 because valuations were really high at the time. And basically, yeah, that's a little bit what I'm seeing in the market right now. And that's also what's reflected on the Agronomics stock share. I think I'm down this year about 30% on them, maybe even a bit higher. No, I think about 30%. And you can also see there actually has been a little bit less news than we're used to from Agronomics. But for some reason near the end of the year, I'm seeing a lot of news pop up. So I think that was worth it to make a video about it. I'm definitely going to discuss the Agronomics portfolio again and the value and my thoughts on it. I do want to say a few big events. The first one being, well, not related to Agronomics portfolio, but the biggest cultivated meat factories being built in the US. So this will produce about 22 million pounds of cultivated meat annually. Now, I did a little bit of calculation based on the meat consumption. I'm thinking we're going to need around 2,000 of these factories being built worldwide to replace our current meat consumption. That might seem like a lot, but if you know there's 200 companies out there, a company like Coca-Cola, for example, they have about 1,000 factories, then maybe 2,000 factories is not the end of the world. And it seems like for the first time I'm starting to think, well, yeah, we could actually do that. That could actually happen. Another big thing was a regulatory approval for one of the companies, not an agronomics company, but one of the agronomics companies got FDA approval. And this is an article just appeared today that China and US regulatory experts discuss cultivated meat adoption. So it sees there's a big cooperation there between China and the US. Europe is not a part of it, which is a shame because it's a European invention. But Europe is working slower when it comes to food and regulatory approval. And China and the US are just overtaking the lead here. And it's really a shame to see that, although there's a few countries that are exceptions to that. Now, I would like to show the agronomics portfolio here. So first thing we notice, cash cash is shrinking. I think I don't have the exact number because it's been a while since they did an update and you have a lot of different currencies that's being invested on. But I think they have about 50 million GBP left. So we'll have to, I think they're going to issue a full update in January or beginning of February like they do every year. Then I'm going to be able to check if I did everything correct. But I think I'm not too far off. But their cash position is low, and I think they're kind of hoped to do a new funding this year. But I don't think it's going to happen at the current share price. I mean, it would have happened by now already. So they're currently just waiting it off a little bit. There has been a little bit of news. First thing, big investments on their side. They invested millions. I think probably around, they really invested a huge chunk of money in Liberation Labs. That's a cultivated meat company. I'm going to show their website later. They already have posted a realized gain, but I don't know how realistic it is since they really are the biggest shareholder. So they might just be, it feels a little bit like they're pumping up the gains, having that many gains. But yeah, maybe they have a really good plan. And They're investing in fermentation, and to be honest, fermentation for me, it's also like one of the areas I see the fastest growth in, because you don't have to go to such an extensive regulatory approval like the other companies need to do. So I do think it is a good investment, but I'm not sure how comfortable I feel that they are 40% ownership, because usually they are like 5 to 10% ownership. But that might just be the investment climate that's a little bit lower, and they saw a good opportunity. Bond Pet Foods is worth mentioning. They got an 84% IRR with some extra investments that happened in that company. So Agronomics loss got a little bit diluted, but the market cap has gone severely up. I was wondering when I was going to hear something about this company again. And the other thing is, I'm also going to touch on that, is government grants or other grants from, especially from Finland, that are starting to come in. So that's really, really good, because when you see for solar food, for example, the market cap was only 100 million. And if you then get a 34 million grant, that's really amazing. But I'm guessing for their full plan, well, I'll just switch to it in a minute before I discuss it even more. But where it comes down to, there has been a small increase in the NAV right now, 2% since my August update, which is one of the smallest increases ever posted. And I am skeptical about the valuations of all these companies that were valuated in 2021. Because valuations were really high at the time. So we'll have to wait and see for new investments in those companies before we can draw any conclusions. We do see like the premium has never been that low, and I think this really correlates to the article I showed earlier, that startups had to accept a 30-35% cut in their price, and it seems that also Agronomics share price has gotten a 35% cut. So the theoretical NAV is right now 0.15, which is higher than the share price, meaning you never got it cheaper, and it's a much better investment actually this year than it was last year. Even though their cash position went down, they are really sitting comfortable, and they have no need for a fresh injection of cash. So let's talk about Liberation Labs. I really like their website, so they are really ambitious. They are planning to have their first factory in 2024, and they talk about 5 more additional factories in different phases. They are planning to take over the world. So, I mean, they are ambitious. Fermentation doesn't really need regulatory approval. So I do believe that there will be a market for it. I don't know how much funding Liberation Labs is going to need to reach that, or when they will reach a mature company. But yeah, I think it's good that Agronomics is going more to liberation, to fermentation, just because the regulatory approval is easier. Second one, Solar Foods, worth mentioning, 34 million grant. So that's really fantastic. So what are they saying? It's really surprising where they got the grant. They got it from a hydrogen project. So I didn't really expect that. But yeah, I mean, that's a way to get the grants. And they got 34 million, and they can get up to 110 million in grants. They needed 600 million apparently for their investment program. I'm assuming that will include, I think they mentioned a dozen factories earlier. So I think what they have now is they should have enough for factory 1, and they can start production phase, and then they can move to factory 2. So they are really, really close to revenue. I hope they will not IPO too fast. This would be a very bad market to IPO, by the way. But if I would have to pick a candidate to IPO first, Solar Foods would definitely be a very good candidate. I mentioned this company before. They're going so fast. They have a good product. So I really think that this could be a very, very valuable company, probably a unicorn in the future. All right. So what's going to bring the next year? What are my predictions? I do think we're going to see full regulatory approval. I think we're going to see food tastings in Europe, specifically the Netherlands. I think we're going to see food sales in stores, well, in restaurants or tastings as well. More tastings in the US, including from Agronomics portfolios. There might be people that are listening now that have next year for the first time the chance to taste that because of all the developments going on. And I think some of agronomics companies might get approval as well in Singapore. So yeah, I think again, we're getting closer. It's still a pipe dream, but I think we're getting closer to making that dream a reality. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I wish you all a happy new year and see you next time.